Good morning, Opening Pathways viewers, or whatever time it is when you are viewing this recording. Today, I have Amodhi with me today, and I've tried to say the last name. I'm going to give it one more go here, and I'm going to ask Amodhi to correct it so you have the correct last name. She is the founder and CEO of Coura, and we're going to learn all about that in just a moment. But it's Amodhi Weeresinghe.
That's right. You did great.
Did I do it? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm thrilled to have you with us today. Been looking forward to it. So I want to start at the very beginning. I'd love to know a little bit about you and Cora, but I really want to know what sparked your idea to found Cora. So please let us know.
Sure. So I have to say, my idea for starting Cora was self-interest. I was getting married and I needed some extra income. So I looked at my skill set and I was like, hey, I'm pretty good at evaluating early stage product ideas and helping individuals bring that to life. I've always considered myself an enabler, not a visionary. I love to work with visionaries and bring their ideas to life. And that was the start of Quora, October 2021.
Amazing. And tell us what Cora offers.
Yes. So here at Quora, we work with primarily non-technical founders, so individuals who are brilliant, have thriving businesses, and really want to build a technology to scale or further grow their business model. And I think it's very difficult and intimidating, even with the AI tools that we have now, to whip up an idea, take it to market, and have people use it. So we become the enablers in that process when people have an idea where they really want to build an app or a software, but not sure where to start. We're that catalyst. So we walk them through different product ideas, help them secure their IP and what that looks like from a technology standpoint, help them build the technical roadmap, think about fundraising if that's what they're interested in, and help them bring that vision to life and to market.
And when on this journey with Cora did you say to yourself, this is it, this is my path?
I think it happened unexpectedly about a year in. More and more inquiries started to come. We didn't do much marketing because initially this was meant to be my side hustle. I was never wanted to leave my full-time career. And but more and more people became interested and I was like, "Oh wow, I think we have tapped into something here because we were really talking to a very specific audience segment, and I'm actually a non-technical person myself. I was an English major that taught myself how to code and learn coding. So I went from like reading Jane Austen satires to being a full stack developer, and I think that hit a note with the people that I was talking to. They found it relatable and felt like we could carry their product through. So it was about a year in, and I was like, oh, I might actually have to leave my full-time job.
Oh, I love this. I remember along my journey, we were challenged one time in a company I was working at that we all needed to know how to code. And I can remember hearing that and thinking to myself, all right, my career's over. I never learned how to code. I wasn't an engineer, but I was really good at a bunch of stuff, but it wasn't that. And um, I never did learn. So who knows? I'm a lifelong learner. So who knows what's next, right?
You can do
I'm
it.
curious when you look at yourself today, how are you fundamentally different than when you started Cora?
I think I'm far more patient. I think when I first started Core, I was definitely wrapped up in the startup hustle and, shipping a product out. It's all about velocity, like all of the big buzzwords that you hear with early stage technology companies. However, what I've learned is if you take a beat and think about things through clarity and with intention, you can build a better product. And I think that patience has carried over into our operations, our processes, how we work with clients. So I'm far more patient. And I'm not a patient person in general, but when it comes to building products, I am very patient because I want it to be intentional.
Wow, wow. Was there a belief you had about yourself that you realized you had outgrown?
I think I always had imposter syndrome being in this space because I am not formally trained to be in this space. I have always worked and learned under fire. Like I like to say, it's through job experiences or projects. And I think this earlier this year, we did an audit of all the projects I've been involved with, and it's over 600. And I realized I've really earned this position I'm in. I am like I've spent over 11,000 hours in the past 5 years really honing my expertise and what I love to do. And I'm finally shedding that imposter syndrome of, oh, I'm a
Mm,
non-technical. How could I do this? How can somebody pay me to, guide their product? And really believing I am somebody who can genuinely help, and it's
yeah.
a really rewarding feeling.
Yeah, I love this imposter syndrome thing because I'm very familiar with it, and there's so many books written about it. There's so many people talking about it, and I'll tell you what I learned. I learned that imposter syndrome, in my view, is merely an opportunity for growth.
I love that. That's a great reframing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what you just said that is so important. I know a lot of my clients I talk with forget about the evidence of what they've accomplished. And so something is upon them that seems like it's so challenging and that they can't do it. And they get this feeling that I don't belong or whatever it is, the imposter syndrome, which is again an opportunity for growth to me. But they forget about the evidence of what they've accomplished. It's just something new. And I find that when you can get people to tap into what the challenges they've already overcome, and it wasn't that it wasn't hard, it wasn't that you didn't learn, it wasn't any of those things, but you made it, that you can do it again. So I love that. So, what I know to be true from these podcasts is that there's somebody in our life from a very, very young age that influenced who we are today. They were either a role model, they were somebody that influenced on something they shared or did with us. Who is that for you?
Well, I have 2, and they're my parents. My father, is an entrepreneur himself, so I think unintentionally, from a young age, I was exposed to thinking with an entrepreneurial spirit, taking risks, pushing through people telling me, "Hey, that's risky," and watching my dad persevere and, seeing him go through that journey and having amazing wins, but also having tremendous losses and how we navigated that, I think gave me the reassurance and the courage that I can do this. And then my mother has been my pillar of strength. I think she has believed in my potential far more than I have believed in myself. And I think what she has brought to me is you can still have your humanity and your personality without, you don't have to lose it when you become a successful. And I think, especially as a woman in the tech space, I sometimes feel like I am the only, like, and to this day, sometimes I am the only woman on some of my calls.
Yeah.
And I tend to be the youngest person on those calls as well. And I think just remembering that I don't have to put on a persona to own the room. I can be myself. That's a value that my mother has taught me.
Yeah, I love this. We need to continue to work shift that. This idea that you're on a call and you're the only woman there or one of few and everything. I think we've still got some work to do in that area. Um, and I love that it's your parents. Mine was my grandmother
I love
I have
that.
wonderful parents, but my grandmother always shared ideas either from experiences she had that no one else would share with me, of things that had happened in her life, or um, was always encouraging that um, different words she was using when I was a little kid, but whatever was unclear would one day be seen with clarity. And I've remembered that it's been true throughout my life. Tell me this, Amodi. What values have guided you from the start with Cora? And which one has deepened over time?
I think integrity. I I think it's very difficult sometimes to be successful in business and also have integrity. I think, you open up any newspaper right now or online article, there's conflict there. And that's something that from day one, I really wanted to hold true in whatever we did. I wanted to ensure that every project we took it responsibly and ethically. How we conversed with clients was in a way that was transparent, that made them understand every step of the process. And it's not all rosy, right? When it comes to
No.
projects, like there's additional costs, there's unexpected situations that happen. Sometimes it's our fault, and owning up to that. And and I think it took me some time to instill that value in the overarching team as well, because I think human nature is to be defensive, to be, wanting to win and have that confidence. But as I've built my company and the values, integrity is the core value that has been deepened. And I think that's one of the reasons why we are successful is because that ethos keeps, consistent throughout our messaging and how we operate. And even if that means I lose a deal, that's okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, one of the things I love about integrity is that I can lay my head down at night and go to sleep
Yes.
and not have thoughts about something that was out of integrity be present. And I agree with you. If you lose a deal over it, you lose a deal. Have you ever said no to growth because it wasn't aligned?
Yes, I have. And it wasn't an easy decision. One of them was somebody who, like a company that was bringing in almost 30% of our recurring revenue. And as they grew, their values changed, their board grew. It was just different from when we first started. And even in our parting, I tried to do it with integrity, make sure that they were well cared for, made sure that I found another team for them that matched where they wanted to go and maybe not where I wanted to go. And it did take a hit. We struggled for about 6 months to recoup that business. But in hindsight, that was the best decision I made. It opened up my time and opened up my creativity. And honestly, it made me feel like I think that sleeping better at night. It's just like I
Yes,
wasn't
yes.
that peace of mind, which is not something that you always get as a business owner, but I knew I made the right call, even though it was a very hard call to
Yeah,
make.
yeah, yeah. I love this. Tell me this: where has life asked you to slow down recently, and what did you hear when you listened?
Well, I became a parent about a year ago, and that happened during the peak of our growth. And I didn't have a choice, right? I mean, I knew I wanted a child, so in that regard, I knew I'd planned for it. But I wasn't quite ready for the reality of having an infant and running a scaling business. And that forced me to really pause and slow down. And I did fight it for some time. I got the childcare. I was waking up at 5 in the morning before she wakes up to get my work done, staying up till midnight to finish the work that I couldn't do during the day, and then I stopped. I was burnt out. I was not being the parent I wanted to be. I was not being the business owner or leader that I wanted to be in my company. And I was like, what happens if we just pause and we change the narrative? What if we change the goalpost? What if it's not growth? But what if and that's why I think having core values as a business is helpful, is let me go back to that core value. It's like, all right, I wanna operate with integrity, but if I'm treating my employees not great, I'm snapping at my, partner and my child, like that's not who I wanna be. So, it meant that I did have to scale back, let some clients go, restructure the business a little bit, balance my work hours so that I'm fulfilled, right? And again, it's not easy, and I don't think it was this, like, aha moment. It was a battle. It was like an 8 months of change that happened, but it was gradual.
Yeah, I think these little ones challenge us to shift and change, and it's not like we get to negotiate. I have two business partners, and they're both fairly young, and they both had babies like within weeks apart. And it's been so much fun watching these type A's that think they're going to systemize a newborn and a baby, and they think they've got it down. And I chuckle to myself and think, yeah, wait till they become a toddler. We'll see how this system works, you know. But it's you know, the beauty of life, and we all find a way through it. But it definitely demands that we look at things differently because we can't do a project around it. We can't systematize it. We can't do those things because that's not how it works with the young ones. So tell me this. Did you have to make a decision recently that required you to act before you felt ready?
Yes, I did. Um, I think the big decision was we it was twofold, right? Our company was going through a transition. My business partner was exiting, and I wasn't quite ready for that, to be honest. And it was mutual. Like, I think it's one thing when you have conversations about things, you feel ready, and then it actually happens, and you're like, oh my God, what have I just done? And I think that was like a big business lesson for me, or just a life lesson. You can talk about it all you want, but when it happens, it's a different ball game. And I wasn't quite ready, right? I wasn't quite prepared for the gaps in, her workload. I wasn't ready for how it would impact our clients, but it was a decision that I had to move forward with regardless. And I had to adapt. I had to change my way of thinking, approach projects slightly differently than I typically would. And it was honestly making it up as I went along. And I think the hard part for me was to admit that to my clients because they're trusting us to bring their visions to life. And so, and also admitting that to my team. And finally, I got everybody together and had individual conversations. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I'm struggling. I I'm taking it day by day, and that's incredible vulnerability. But I was surprised by like how supportive people are when you are transparent. And I think that support really helped me adjust and pivot. And, it's been about a month and a half now, and we have really shifted gears. Like we are now like slowly getting back to where we were. And that could have been a lot longer if I'd kept fighting it. But I think life is always going to give you, whether in business or in personal,
Yeah.
there's always gonna be opportunities that you're not gonna be ready for, and I think, I used to always chuckle at that, old saying, "Prepare, and when the opportunity comes, you'll be ready," and sometimes that's just not the reality of life, but I think having the tools and the skill sets to be honest and open with yourself
Yeah.
can help you get through that.
I agree so much. Sometimes we, I think, forget that we're supposed to be in leadership positions, that we're supposed to be above some of these things and above being vulnerable, above making mistakes. I had one last week, Amodhi. I was resetting the tone of a weekly meeting I have with my team. And I remember I did the agenda with one intent. The agenda was not reflective of what I was trying to do. And I was a bit of a jerk, and I'm not a jerk too often, but I was. And I wasn't mean or anything. I just got very quiet. And of course, I apologized to everyone later. And I remember telling them later that now you've seen the worst of Tom. And they were like, oh God, if that's it, we can, if that's as bad as it gets, we're just fine. If that's all we've got to take, we could do that every now and then. But I think our willingness to be human, and so many times people get in leader positions and think they cannot be They can't show those cracks that happen that are no matter what level, no matter what amount of responsibility happens, we still remain a human being. And I think people relate to it when we actually express it, show it with authenticity, right? That's the key, right? How has your relationship with risk changed as your responsibility has grown at Quora?
That's an interesting question. So I don't think it has changed. I I always remember being a child and telling people my dreams and aspirations, and these adults around me saying, "Well, you're a kid. That's why you can dream like this." And I met somebody when I was 22, and they were 80 at the time, and they were a violin player. And I was like, "Oh, how long have you been playing violin?" They're like, 40 years. Then I did the math. I'm like, "So you started at 40 playing the violin?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I think that kind of sparked in me that to never lose that inner child and that have that aspiration and desire. So I don't necessarily call it risk, Tom. I think for a lot of people, it feels right, risk. But I call it my inner child, honestly. I think I have dreams and aspirations that some people look at me and as like that's not realistic, Amodhi. Like you gotta be grounded. And it's not that I'm not, but I don't want to limit myself. And that means going for opportunities that maybe I'm not quite ready for, maybe saying no to things. And that's also a risk. I think sometimes we see risk as like going for it, but a risk can also be saying no to something. And and I think I'm okay with that because I think there's this aspiration of like to never lose that wonder.
Yeah. What did last year strip away and you're grateful it's gone?
What did last year strip away and that I'm grateful that it's gone? That's a great question. Let me give it a minute here. I think last year we had our most significant operating loss financially. It was supposed to be our best year, and we lost multiple six figures. And for a small business like ours, that can be catastrophic. And I'm grateful for that in hindsight because it got me to stop chasing the numbers. I think I was in this headspace of like, I need X amount of recurring revenue. I need to hit these targets. I want to hit, nine figures by this year. And what I realized is business is not linear. It's ebbs and flows like life. And I think once I lost that amount of money, yes, it was painful, but it also showed me like you can bounce back, you can pivot, you can restructure. And those are lessons that you don't always learn when you're being successful. So I think I'm grateful for that. I don't think my bank account was grateful for that, but me personally, I think it has shown me how resilient I can be and my business can be.
Yes, it's about this. I'm a big thing about resilience. So tell me this. How do some which she's not sure of,
How does Amodi
which she's not sure of. So
how do I lead when I'm not sure of myself? I'm a pretty spiritual person, so I honestly pause, and I think it's going back to that pausing. I reflect a lot before the next step. So, especially if I'm entering a season where I'm not sure what decision to make, or like I get like a pretty frustrating client email and the team is frustrated and I'm not sure how to guide them, I always take a beat. Um, and then I think the best thing that I have done for myself is I put myself in the shoes of possibly the opposition or like the alternative situation. It's like, let me get as multiple vantage points and perspectives as I can. And I always start off with, "Hey guys, I'm not sure," because that's the truth. And I share my vulnerability with the team. And then I say, here's what I think we should do. I'd love to hear, because I work with smart people. So I'm like, let me hear your inputs. And then let's make a decision. I know at the end of the day, it's my decision to make. But one, I pause. Two, I try to make it collaborative. And last but not least, like I am honest in the fact that I'm not sure, but regardless of being unsure, I will own this decision. So I think that
Yes.
takes pressure off of the team as well.
I love it when we remember that the people that we have on our team are smart and that we're willing to learn from them and ask questions. We only make better decisions when we do it. And those of us that have illusion as a leader that we have all of the answers is, I think, somewhat foolish when we have smart people around us that can inform us to make better decisions. I love that. What was something about leadership that no one prepared you for?
The heartache of leading. I think leadership, even from a young age, it's always celebrated. Like you are strong, people will look up to you. But, and like, I've also heard that it's very lonely, that's often spoken about. But I think like sometimes your heart breaks. Like you have to make decisions that you genuinely wish you didn't have to. And that emotional weight is hard, especially when
Hmm.
you care about the work that you do, and nobody really prepares you for the heartache. It's like nobody like I'm yet to hear somebody actually talk about that pain that you have to go through and what you have to sit with when you have to let somebody go or deliver bad news. And there's nobody who can really understand you at that point. And I guess that's where the loneliness comes. But how do you deal with the heartache? Like it's like almost it's different from romantic heartache, but it's still heartache nonetheless.
Yeah, I love this. That's when I think we learn really who people are, and those times that we would rather not do it. We have to lay off people or we have to give some bad news, whatever it may be, is not difficult. But that's the role we stepped into, and how we do that and the way we do it is so critical. I know I was with a company one time and I had to lay off 160 people on my birthday,
Ooh.
and I realized that this was nothing at anyone's fault. We were being trying to be bought by a big company. We just ran out of money before they could do their due diligence, and it just happened. And we did everything to try and make that not happen. And we had communicated the risk, but we had such an incredible team. But I think that's when you're really called into showing who you are or who you're willing to be, because some people are unfazed by it. And I always think of how I might feel and remember the ripple that is beyond that person you're talking to, what the impacts are and what that means. And I can tell you see that too. Tell me, Amodhi, when do you recognize fear as information and not a stop sign?
Well, to be honest, Tom, it starts off as a stop sign because like it's fear, it's scary. Your body's biologically designed to pause and be like, "Oh, I don't want to go there," right? So I wish I could say I've evolved to the point where it's like, "Oh, it's information." No, I pause and I'm like, "Oh, maybe it's time to jump ship," right?
Yes.
And then and I think and I also have learned over the years to forgive myself for having those moments because that's a real fear is a genuine emotion. So I give myself permission to feel it and, walk away. Maybe I need to take a break, go for a walk, like maybe watch the 30 minutes Netflix show to kind of gather myself. And then, just in the nature of the work that I do, I have to come back to it, right? I have to deal with
Yes.
some shape or form. And, I'd like to say like most of the time I went out and it's information, right? And I think like that has been my process. I need to give myself the time to feel the fear in order to then recognize that this can be information that's helpful. But
Yeah.
then there are times where, I'm just scared and I don't want to deal with it. And I'm still trying to be okay with that side of
Yeah.
things.
I'll share with you what I've learned, and sometimes I do it well, sometimes not as well. But I've learned that much like that old imposter syndrome, fear is also an opportunity for growth.
I'm gonna put that on a sticky note near my computer.
It's really a great time to remember the evidence that we spoke about earlier, in those moments of how we've gotten through things. But I'm all for taking those few minutes to even feel it, but I try very hard to remind myself whatever this is an opportunity for growth. Now, if a tiger were chasing me, I'm not sure that I'm going to stop to think about, is this an opportunity for growth? But and the things we're talking about, yes. So tell me this, Amodhi, what are you most proud of? What impact are you most proud of? Not publicly, not professionally, but personally.
I think I'm most proud of myself for just giving things a shot, like I didn't follow the trajectory. Yeah, I just didn't. And I, if I believed in something, even if other people didn't agree with me, even sometimes my parents who I look up to, I still gave myself a chance. I was like, just take a shot. Like, why not? Because if I don't believe in myself, who else will? If I don't give myself the opportunity, who nobody's gonna give that to me. In an ideal world, somebody will recognize me and be like, Modi, you're great. Like, let me bring you into this. But I think that's what I'm most proud of. I'm not always the most confident. I'm not always the most, daring, but whenever it has mattered, I've been like, just give it a shot. If it doesn't work, that's okay. But at least I think the best way to I do this exercise, Tom, and maybe this might be helpful for your audience as well. Every year on my birthday, I look back and say, if I could redo something in my life and go back in a time machine, what would I do? And besides buying certain stocks to,
Yes.
increase my fortune, or fortune to be, I don't have any regrets. It's because whatever it is, I was like, let me take the chance. And if it works out, great. And I'm 34 now, and I know I have a lot of life to live. But I feel like that's not pretty bad for 34 to be like, I don't wish to change anything because I've always given myself a little bit of the nudge and the encouragement to try.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I have a friend who's writing a book um about regret, and I can't wait for it to come out, because this idea that so many people at the end of their life, as they're going through that process that we all get to go through at some point, um the last thing I want to be doing is making a list of the things I wish I had done, or that I was too fearful of not to try, or that I told myself I couldn't because of something someone else told me. So I love this idea. We could do a whole podcast on that, Amodi. So tell me this: what boundary has become essential to your sustainability?
Protecting my time. I used to give my time away very freely. And and my love language is quality time. And that's how I love to receive love and feel really wonderful. And I'm like, why am I giving this finite resource away so freely to unnecessary things? And by unnecessary, I mean like answering emails that really don't need to be answered, or taking a call just for the sake of taking a call. And I'm like, my time is finite. I'm only here for however many years I'm given, and I wanted to protect that. So, and that has been hard because I come from a very all my life. It's just like you hustle, you grind. That's how you succeed. But now I have a strict cutoff. It's like, hey, if you want my time, and especially if I'm giving value, you will compensate me for it. If I give you my time, it's because I genuinely want to give you my time. It's a gift that I'm sharing with my loved ones or with my colleagues because I want to. And I also protect my time. Like I need like at 4 o'clock, I don't work. Like you won't hear from me on Fridays unless like I always tell my team unless someone's dying, we're going bankrupt or the client is going bankrupt. I don't want to hear from y'all. Like go live your life. So that's a boundary that I'm becoming very fierce at protecting. And I know that frustrates a lot of people, but I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I had a client and he was expressing to me about his relationship, and he had ended up losing one relationship, and he was fearing about losing the one that he was in. And the issue was in his business, he felt he needed to be available when anybody wanted to speak to him. And we worked on that for a while. And I think the thing that had him really zero in it a little more is the question: do you think the person that you're sabotaging your relationship over would do the same for you? Do you think they're going to be there versus their relationship, their children, whatever it is, at every moment that you want to talk to them? And the answer, of course, is no. And so we set, I think, sometimes these expectations based often on what someone else has told us that we should or could or do. And I love that you're sharing that with the viewers today, because I think it's so important to remember that we're sharper, we're more effective when we also protect that time and remember what renewal looks like for each of us. And it doesn't have to be the same. And it's beyond a day off, it's beyond resting. I used to fool myself and I would travel internationally for work and I would take a long weekend and go, oh, I'm on vacation. No, I was not on vacation at all. And the first time I took a real one, I was like, oh, I see, that we are human and that parts of these things, whatever it looks like for us, are important. Amodi, what does legacy look like at this moment in your life?
I think legacy, I'd like to be known for how I treated people rather than the products I built or the revenue I generated. I think I don't need to be recognized in articles or history books, but if I can be remembered in the hearts of the people that I served and worked alongside, I'd be a very content person.
Yeah, I love this. Tell me this: what's the boldest vision for Cora? What's
Um,
happening in the next year, 5 years? What are you looking for Cora to achieve?
so we've gotten really good at product design and development. And more so than the work that we do, I love the individuals that we meet. They are phenomenal. And oftentimes they struggle to get funding for their projects. They're usually underserved and underrepresented. Our founders they come from, marginalized backgrounds. And I'd love in the next, 2 to 3 years to build an investment arm for Cora that can not only advise, but also invest and help grow and scale these, not only these companies, but the people themselves who are running these companies. And, I think venture and, fundraising always has like a bad, it's desired, but it's also like, you're selling your soul. Right. And I think if there's a way that I can do it with integrity and support these wonderful people that I've met along the way and generate wealth for themselves, generational wealth, while also building products that leave the world a better place than we started. That would be remarkable. So that's my bold vision for Quora.
Yeah. So tell me this: if a very, very, very younger, much younger Amodi was listening to this podcast we're doing, what would you tell her?
Girl, just do it. You're gonna be fine. Just do it. I
I love
don't
it.
want to lose that spirit because
Good.
that is what has gotten me this far, and I think that's what is gonna get me
Uh,
further.
Amodhi, founder and CEO of Coura, it's been great having you on Opening Pathways today. Tell us where we can find you.
Well, you can find me at Quora, the website, www.quora.com. And I'm also really active on LinkedIn. Fun fact, I might be one of the only Amodhi Weeresingers on LinkedIn right now. If you are listening and want to connect, I'm always active. Feel free to drop me a message. Would love to connect.
Wonderful. Again, from Coura, that's Coura, for those of you that might be trying to reach out to Amodhi or look about what Coura might have to offer you. Thank you for being on Opening Pathways today.
Thanks for having me. This was a treat.
Thank you. And to my viewers, this is Tom Lenoble, and I'll see you next time.